Top 10 Most Haunted Places in the United States. Whether you believe it or not, America's towns are full of frightening tales, passed down through the decades. There are various spookiest places in the United States, ranging from ghostly fortresses to horrible tales of pain and death. Hi, this is Rick Font from Nonstop Top 10s. Today, we have compiled the list of the top 10 most haunted places in the United States. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Weston, West Virginia. This frightening asylum was built in 1858 and opened to patients in 1864. Richard Andrews, the architect, constructed the vast structure to maximize sunlight and fresh air. It was hoped that the building itself would act as a therapeutic environment. By the 1950s, the hospital, which was meant for 250 people, was housing 2,400 patients in overcrowded conditions, with illnesses ranging from alcoholism to epilepsy. Patients were forcibly restrained and were subjected to harsh procedures including electroshock therapy and lobotomies. The clinic was forced to close in 1994 after more than a century of operation due to reforms in mental health care and architectural deterioration. Hundreds of patients perished during the asylum's occupancy, and scores of visitors and ghost hunters have claimed to encounter their ghostly figures walking the decrepit hallways of Trans-Allegheny. Number 9. The Stanley Hotel, Colorado. Stephen King's best-selling novel turned horror film, The Shining, was inspired by a night spent in this hotel set in Colorado's mountain wilderness. F.O. and Flora Stanley, a couple from Massachusetts, opened the remote resort in 1909 and reportedly never left. Mr. Stanley can be heard playing her Steinway piano in the music room late at night, according to staff, and Mr. Stanley occasionally appears in photographs. Bags being unpacked, lights turning off and on, and echoes of children's laughter heard in the hallways have also been reported. According to paranormal specialists, the Stanley Hotel is one of the most active ghost sites in the country. Number 8. Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, Fall River, Massachusetts. Andrew and Abby Borden's remains were discovered bludgeoned beyond recognition in their house on August 4, 1892. Lizzie, their youngest daughter, is the major suspect. The Borden case was one of the first in America to be covered by the media. Despite mounting public scrutiny and suspicions that Lizzie had financial reasons for the murder, she was acquitted due to a lack of physical evidence, and no one was ever charged for the murders. The Borden house has subsequently been turned into a museum and bed and breakfast, where visitors can view gory images of the crime scene and sleep in one of its allegedly haunted rooms. Number 7. RMS, Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. From 1936 to 1967, this former ocean liner sailed the Atlantic Ocean. During its first 3 years at sea, the Queen Mary transported dignitaries and Hollywood stars such as General Dwight Eisenhower, Elizabeth Taylor, and Audrey Hepburn. Her days as a luxury ship, however, were brief, as it was stripped of its comforts in 1939 and began its second life as the Grey Ghost, a World War II troop ship. After the war, it was restored to its former glory and continued to sail the Atlantic for nearly 2 decades. On Halloween 1967, the Queen Mary embarked on its final voyage, eventually arriving in Long Beach, California, where it was laid to rest. The souls of those who perished aboard, notably the young sailor crushed to death by a door in the engine room and a crew member slain in cabin B340, are said to haunt the ship. In fact, the ship no longer sails the Atlantic, but it instead serves as a floating hotel and restaurant on California's Pacific coast. Number 6. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia. This scary Gothic-style prison was opened in Philadelphia back in 1829 and was the first in the United States to use solitary confinement, a contentious practice. Prisoners were housed in stone chambers with little human contact. Hoods were placed over their heads anytime they were moved. Proponents of this approach felt that seclusion would lead to penitence and, eventually, rehabilitation. Critics, on the other hand, claimed it caused emotional distress equal to physical torture. The so-called Pennsylvania system was imitated in several other states and throughout Europe. It is said that the spirits of the inmates reclaimed the jail when it closed in 1971. Visitors claimed to see their apparitions roaming the halls and to hear nefarious whispering in abandoned cell blocks. All of this adds to make it one of the most haunted prisons in the world. Number 5. The Shanghai Tunnels, Portland. Portland, one of the most dangerous ports in the United States in the early 19th century, was the center of Shanghaiing, a sort of human trafficking. Swindlers preyed on unwary men at the local saloons, which were often outfitted with trapdoors that dropped the victims directly into a network of underground tunnels, according to local legend. These guys were allegedly held captive, sedated, and eventually transferred to the docks, where they were sold as unpaid labor to ships. Some labored for several years before returning home. The tunnels are claimed to be haunted by the resentful ghosts of the captives who died in the city's dark bowels. Number 4. Salem, Massachusetts. This famous city in Massachusetts attracts ghost seekers from all over the world as the site of the Salem witch trials. Those seeking chills might visit the witch house, resident of Judge Corwin, an investigator from the infamous trials, Gallows Hill, where the wrongly accused were executed, and Old Burying Point, where the accusers are buried. Perhaps the most terrifying of all, the House of the Seven Gables, which inspired American author Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel of the same name. Visitors to the ancient Salem mansion, which is now a museum, have reported hearing voices in their ears, despite the fact that no one is around. You might want to close your ears for this one. Number 3. Pine Barrens, New Jersey. In between New York and Philadelphia lay 1.1 million acres of uninhabited woodland and its most famous resident, the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is either a livestock killing beast with red eyes, a Bigfoot-like phenomenon, or the real offspring of Satan, depending on who you ask, also known as the 13th child of a New Jersey woman named Jane Leeds, born in 1735. The elusive Jersey Devil is nearly impossible to locate, but there are plenty of opportunities to encounter other New Jersey legends, such as the golden-haired girl, a demonic black hound, and Captain Kidd's headless ghost. You can explore the area's abandoned mining and mill towns and search for spirits on a haunting stroll through the woods. Number 2. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Thousands of troops were killed at the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, yet their spirits live on. Soldier ghosts are frequently spotted in towns, hotels, and restaurants, and they have even been known to rush across the battlefield at night. Visitors also claim to hear guns and smell gunpowder. Many infamous sites in the Gettysburg National Military Park have observed paranormal activity, such as weird floating orbs spotted around the Gettysburg National Cemetery. There is also Sachs-Covered Bridge, where some have claimed to see 3 floating heads, said to be the ghosts of 3 Confederate soldiers who were executed there. Number 1. The LaLaurie Mansion, New Orleans. Madame Mary Delphine LaLaurie was a Louisiana socialite who hosted ritzy soirees in her opulent French Quarter mansion in New Orleans in the early 19th century. Guests savored delicious cuisine and champagne, blissfully ignorant of the terrible sights unfolding 2 levels above. In 1834, when local authorities were called to a kitchen fire, They discovered the bodies of numerous hideously mutilated, enslaved individuals in the attic. When the public discovered LaLaurie's heinous secret, a crowd invaded the mansion, forcing her to flee to France. People claimed to have heard the phantom screams of her victims streaming from the house in the dead of night, soon after LaLaurie vanished from New Orleans. Which is the most haunted place in your town? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video. Also, subscribe to Nonstop Top 10s for more such videos. See you in the next one. Till then, take care. Goodbye.